I'm Donald Harwood. Lived in Brewerton all my life, 72 years, 71 years, not two yet. My parents, my dad come here from Philadelphia, New York in 1912. He and his mom came down on a train in January. They brought 7 cows and a dog with them. He was 9 years old at the time. They came to the train station here in Brewerton, and my dad and the dog drove the 7 cows home to Mud Mill Road. And 2 days later, his dad and his brother arrived by sleigh, horse and sleigh, with their machinery and home furnishings and stuff that they were bringing from Philadelphia. Coming in January back then was no easy task, particularly all the way from Philadelphia, New York, on a sleigh. But they made it, and they made their home in Mud Mill Road, which I'm living in the house today. When I was a youngster, the school was here where the fire department is now. And the school that I attended was on Mud Mill Corners, where the Baptist Church now resides. And I walked to school the first 4 years of my schooling. I walked the mile back and forth each day. Something interesting happened when I left 6th grade in that building. Actually, I was supposed to end up in the Brewerton School, where the fire department is now. But the bus came, picked me up. The next thing I knew, I was at the Main Street School in Central Square. Some of the things that was here in Brewerton back then, you had a couple of hotels, one up where Kenny Drugs is now, and one on the corner right here by the bridge on Route 11. And you had a big shop, hardware, you had a drugstore, none of them in the same place that they were back then. We had a little market, and we had a bakery, a very small fire department. We did have a fire department. Barber shop over on the corner over here. A fish market. Oh, we had a number of eating places. We had Smith's Pier. We had Orlando's. Back then it was a great little town. You knew everybody. Everybody knew you. There was always something to do, even back then. It's been a very, very good time, and we've seen a lot happen. We would come to Halloween parties. In fact, that's where Marie and I first met. We didn't know it. We had forgotten about it, but that's where we first met, was at a at a Halloween party. So, and we didn't see each other for what? Must have been 20 years, at least. And then we're back together again. We would have baseball games between the kids and so on at different people's homes, and you could do lots of fishing. You could do lots of frogging. You could catch mushrats. In my case, you could try to run across ice and not be able to swim and fall in 3 different times, and each time my brother saved me. But when I was a little snot, they would be out hunting, and I looked out, see them out there, and I decided I was going to go out and hunt, so I picked up a stick and started down there and run right across the ice and went in halfway across the creek, and my brother happened to see me, and he come down and yanked me out of the ice, and that was one episode. And then we had a flood, and they had to go across. We had to take a boat to go across to get the horses and bring them back across the creek. And I was in the boat with my 2 brothers, and for some reason, of course, we were going along by the fence line, and I could see the fence line in the water, and I reached for the fence line, and I tipped us all over into the water. And they wound up hanging by the ropes that they had in there to hook the horses to underneath the boat, and I was floating downstream. And they got themselves loose and ran down, and again they dragged me out of the water. And so that was 2 episodes in the water, and I had one other, and I don't remember the circumstances on that one. We always raised a lot of chickens, and I decided to go down one day and watch the chickens in the chicken coop. The window was open, so I put my arms up on the windowsill, and of course there was a stick there holding the window up, and the window come down on the back of my neck, and I was stuck in there, and all of a sudden they realized that I was missing, and they come down, and I'd been there for a little while. In fact, I almost choked to death. It got down on my throat and almost choked me, but that was another episode. Again, it was my brothers that saved me, so. The Brewerton Field Days, we had all kinds of different games that they would play. Bingo was one of them, and dart throwing and spinning a wheel and you had your numbers and so on that you played. They'd spin a wheel, and if it ended up on a number, that was the winner. And they had wrestling. In fact, Millard Rogers was in charge of it, and they had a wrestling show every year, mud wrestling. They would fill the rink, wrestling rink full of mud and wet it right down, or full of dirt and wet it right down, and so they wrestled in the mud. And Millard was the referee, and that was kind of funny to watch these people wrestling in the mud. But that was one thing. Of course, there was always the big parade every year, and they always had a raffle. Sometimes it would be a boat, sometimes it would be a car, depending on what they could get a hold of. It was big. We had a lot of people coming. There's one thing that we didn't mention is the trolley. We had the trolley that went to Syracuse. A lot of people used it every day to go to work. They used it to go to the market down there to sell their goods.